Okay, so Michael?
Are you ready when I'm ready when you are.
Okay. We're here at Jazz Live San Diego with Rob Thorsen. Rob, welcome to Jazz Live San Diego.
Thanks very much, Vince. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's a special night tonight at Jazz Live San Diego as we're presenting Jazz and American Art Form. And it's a program that you had a big hand in starting up, right?
Yeah, basically I developed it. I mean, it took a few years, but we initially did the program, probably 8 or 9 years ago, and then eventually kind of got the ball rolling and really put it together and started getting it in schools.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about your history as a musician before we talk a little bit more about the program. Tell us a little bit how you got started in music.
Well, I grew up playing all sorts of different instruments, going through classical guitar. I played ukulele for a while, classical guitar, flute, saxophones in my teens, tuba for a bit, eventually landing on bass of all things. I played electric bass for a few years, and once I got an upright bass, which was, I was probably 21 years old, and the bug just hit me. I mean, I just absolutely love this instrument. So from then on, I really got serious about it and, you know, started practicing a lot, and I got a gig a couple of years later on a cruise ship, and you know, things pretty much, you know, you got to keep working at it, that's for sure, but things really moved along.
So was your exposure through your family? Did they push you, or how did you get introduced to the fact that you could actually be a musician and play?
Yeah, the good question, Vince. I would say my mom was probably the most supportive. She played classical guitar and had a lot of art and also textile weaving and different, she just was a very artistic woman, so she definitely supported me in my musical endeavors, and you know, I think kind of got the flame burning. And I remember she took me to hear Andre Segovia when I was like 10 or 11, and you know, exposing me to different styles, different people and everything.
So that exposure to the music, even if it, you know, different kinds of music, was kind of important and made an impact on you.
Absolutely, and that's one thing too I stress to my students and everybody. It's like all styles of music, especially with jazz, because it's such a melting pot. It's very beneficial the more you understand and the more you know and appreciate.
Can you tell us just a little bit about how music education was influenced you? Did you have lots of different teachers, or in particular teachers that helped you?
Yeah, I mean, like most kids growing up going to public schools, I had, you know, certain teachers had an impact on me. There was one, Don Artemis, in middle school that really had an effect on me, and Mike Smith, who I still see often. He taught at La Jolla High School, and so they definitely had a big impact on me as far as kind of, you know, turning me on to different players and like, oh, here's people to check out and everything. So yeah, they had an impact. I also studied saxophone privately for a few years, so I'd say my private teachers did a little bit, but I was on bass, I was a lot self-taught, but I already had quite a lot of musical background and theory, so that made it easier.
Well, tell us a little bit about the personal impact to you of your involvement in the Jazz and American Art Form program. What kind of things have you learned about yourself as a musician or as a teacher through that?
Yeah, really how important it is. I mean, the way I got started in this program was I had done a lot of music in the schools programs through the Musicians Union as a sideman. And honestly, I thought, you know, they were okay presentations, but I thought there could be a lot more going on as far as interaction with the kids. And so when we did an initial performance, you know, like I mentioned quite a few years ago, we were talking afterwards, and Gilbert was saying, yeah, this was really, you know, we should keep doing this. This was a lot of fun. And it kind of got me thinking, like, well, how could I, you know, it's easy to be critical of, you know, as I had been maybe a little bit, but how could I take a presentation and make it better and make it stronger? So we gradually developed it that way, and I think if you're not afraid to maybe, you know, fall on your rear a few times, you start to come up with real good ideas and sort of what connects with the kids.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about what projects you're working on right now as a musician outside of Jazz as an American Art Form? What are some of the usual groups or gigs that you play?
Yeah, right. I work often with Gilbert Castellanos in his Latin Jazz Quintet. We play Wednesdays down at El Camino. I'm playing Fridays over at Clay's in La Jolla with the Dave Scott Quartet. And you know, I freelance quite a lot. I'm playing some with Nina Anderson, who's a great singer-songwriter. And then my own group seems to be doing quite a lot of things coming up. We've got a date at Dizzy's on December 19th, and we're playing at Idlewild Jazz Festival a week later on the Sunday, the 28th of August.
Any recording projects? Your last disc, we played a lot on the station, and I'm sure we're looking for something. Anything in that area?
Oh, and I appreciate all your support here at the station. You guys are wonderful. I've got a couple big ideas I'm working on, but I haven't started going into the studio yet with anything. But I've definitely got a couple projects in mind. It seems like just financially and as far as the whole recording process, if I can get something out about every 2.5 or 3 years or something, that's good. I mean, I'm of course involved in other people's projects, and some other releases have come out, but you know, I always look forward to my own projects, because that's a real challenge and very rewarding.
Where can folks find out a little bit more about you and on the internet?
My website's robthorsen.com, ROBTHORSEN, and that's probably the best site. There's a link to my my schedule, and I'm starting to do Facebook a lot more, which really helps. It's a great way to spread the word and, you know, get a whole bunch of people involved. So
another one of your colleagues that plays usually with the quartet in jazz and American art form is drummer Richard Sellers. Can you tell us a little bit about Richard and how you met him?
Yeah, Richard, he's a real unique character and wonderful person. We met probably in the mid-late 90s, I think, possibly through pianist Kamau Kenyatta. I'm not sure, but Richard's great. One thing I like about him is his incredible diversity. I mean, he does hip-hop and funk, and he plays in Caribbean, like, steel drum bands, and he's really a great, empathetic jazz drummer who really listens to what's going on and isn't afraid to play quietly or loudly, or just, you know, being really open to new ideas and stuff. And I think that's sort of a key element in jazz, and for jazz musicians, at least what I look for is people that are very sort of interactive, but also willing to just go with the flow and do things that are a little out of the norm.
What are some of his particular contributions to jazz as American art form? As you're talking there about his empathy, it would seem like that would really translate also through to kids too.
Yeah, and one thing that students don't see often in music, because, you know, if you're watching music on TV or MTV or whatever, they don't really see the interactive element that's going on. And you know, Richard, as all these musicians do, they're interactive. They're sort of responding to what's going on, but also they're enjoying it. I mean, we love doing what we do, and I think it shows on the stage. And, you know, Richard's up there smiling and laughing, and I mean, playing music's a real challenge, but when you get up there and perform, it's such a joy. So I think he really shows that, and that's one thing I really appreciate.
While we have a couple minutes, a couple words about Brett Saunders, who's filling in for Richard tonight. How did you meet him and get connected with him?
Yeah, I consider myself fortunate. Brett is another just fantastic drummer, and he played on my very first recording that was called First Impression that we did in 1996 with Mike Wofford and Larry Delacruz. And Brett I just love, and we play together fairly often. And when Richard was unavailable, because he's teaching at a music school in Los Angeles tonight, or this week, so Brett was available, and I was so excited because he knew the program, and he's just a really warm, very supportive being. So, and he works also a lot with Gilbert, so we all know each other. You know, we've all known each other for quite a few years, I'd say, probably dating back to the mid-90s, and much longer even for Bob Boss.
Okay, well, I think we'll talk a little bit with Gilbert Castellanos now.